Okay, everybody. That break was longer than normal for the batteries. Yep, that's right. All right, I can see half of you guys now. Let me get this going. Let me go back down here. Okay. By the way, I can see you guys now. Did you guys hear my intro? The discussion right before the break? Did you guys hear that? Or did I have the thing on mute? Hopefully you heard that. Somebody said, no, you guys didn't hear it? Are you kidding me? It was an intro. Okay. I gave an intro. Are you serious? I'll do it again. Don't worry. All right. An intro to Calendar Zero Part Two. Calendar Zero Part Two. What is Part Two about? Part One was about you, right? About going forward, not having luggage, not carrying the past with you. Part Two is different. Part Two is about your identity. Your identity. Well, is for you to be exactly who God made you to be, not who you made you to be, right? So if your identity is coming from the world, if it's coming from what you aspire to be, that's actually us making up some sort of personality so the world can see and try to build upon that. There are many causes, right? There are many things that can cause a person to build some type of personality. Many causes. Abuse that could really stem from quite a few situations. But I'll tell you something. The Lord knows who He made in you. He does not know, right? He's not coming back. Christ is not coming back for some identity we have created unto ourselves. Christ is coming back for who God made you to be. That's what Christ is going to do. He's coming back for who He designed you to be. In my case, for example, suppose I became something I'm not, right? I was on that course for a long time in my life. I was being something I was not. I thought I was being everything I could be because, like everybody else, you hear this continual message from the world, right? That message says, you can be anything you want to be. That's what it says. You guys believe that? Most people did. And so what do? You pick a career. You start to mold yourself behind that career, behind the people you meet. You begin to emulate other people. You take what's best. You add that as a practice of your life. But the Lord is coming back for who He sent here to earth, right? He's coming back for who He made you to be, not for who we make us to be. So for the most part, much of our identity is tied to the world. It is tied to what you could say is as a reward for the world. In my case, it took some real soul searching to find out who I was. And it was quite easy. It was very easy. It was astoundingly easy to find out who I was. See, the Lord built you with a base set of passions. He designed you, right? Everything about you. He designed it with a base set of passions. There are certain ways that you have, certain ways you do not have. There's certain things that come natural to you, certain things that don't. And I've noticed something. When you're trying to be something you're not, you're always going to be tired. You're always going to be worn out. You're always going to want to, pack it up and walk off. But when you're being what God made you to be, it's in your blood. Right? It's in your blood. You don't get tired of it. You can't stop doing it. It's part of your true identity. It's part of that born-again spirit. You don't get tired. You're not going to get fatigued. You may get discouraged because of people, but you'll never stop. You don't have an ability to stop because it's who you really are. In the days we live in right now, with all these uncertainties, this is the time to become what the Lord has made you to be. And there are lots of examples of people who lost themselves in history, in biblical history, becoming something they were not, right? And just to let you know this, the Lord told us, it's in the Bible, that when he comes back, many people are going to be in strange garments. You know what that means? They're going to become something he never intended them to be. Something they made up to themselves. Strange garments. Your garments are important. Christ gets all the spots and wrinkles out of your garments. But if you have on strange garments, Christ is not going to work on the character that we made unto ourselves. He's not going to do that, right? Let me give you another hint about your character. The world rejected who you really are. The world is very protective, and they love those who belong to it. You do not. So how many of you in your youth, people told you, yeah, don't be like that. Don't be like that. But it was natural for you to have high states of compassion. And they said, don't do it. It was natural to you to love everybody around you. And they said, don't do it. It was natural for you to forgive of just about everything. And they said, don't do it. It was natural for you to see some of these obscene things that happen in society. And they said, don't pay attention to it. See, you have this very specific character. The world tried to mold you into something else. And for the most part, we took the bait because we came up with a formula. We needed, jobs and careers. And by those jobs and careers, we began to pick up parts of everybody else, adding those parts to ourselves, even our styles, everything, losing ourselves in the process. It's precisely what we did. And now it's time to get back to who the Lord made. If all of you could agree that we live in the last days, then there's no time to delay. There is no time, right? This is one of those times, a call, a real call to get our lives back to what God intended them to be. Age is not a factor. Don't worry about how long you've been off course. But those things don't matter. Your age does not matter because the Lord said he would redeem the years. That statement, right, is not saying you're going to be young again. That's not what it says. It means the time we wasted in the world, God will redeem that time as though we have not wandered out in the world and lost ourselves and lost many years. That means he'll do a quick and powerful work in you. You will not be one of those, right, whose job is incomplete. Alana Zero Part Two is about your identity. And this world that we live in right now, there's so many avenues that are sifting people into so many different concepts, right? We may get into some heavy things. It probably won't be a long broadcast, but it will be quite direct. Because you being yourselves as to who God set on this earth is very important. People suffer, and in the Bible they suffered from becoming something they were not. Look at King Solomon. You guys remember him? King Solomon. He became something he was not, and he suffered for it. So did an entire nation. Do you know that? King Solomon, right? King Solomon and his daddy David. He was out there praying to the Lord, and the Lord said, he was talking to the Lord about the kingdom. He said, these people, they need a real leader, right? That's what he said. So God, he was having that conversation. God said, well, what do you want? He wanted to be able to guide those people, to be real with them. And God said, because you didn't ask me for money or any of that stuff, I'm going to grant you wisdom. I'm going to grant you riches. Because you didn't ask for that. What you did ask for was genuine. See, he didn't think that he was fit to lead the kingdom, right? He said they need a real leader. They need someone who is real, someone who can really take them the distance, someone who can guide them, not some, imposter. They need someone real. And because he did that, because he was genuine, because that was initially in his heart, the Lord blessed him with wisdom and with riches, right? But guess what he did? So he was made king of that kingdom. And guess what he did? He went out by way of his wisdom, he went out and lived every life a person could possibly live. As a drunk, as a father, as this, as that, and the other. And guess what he said? All is vanity. That's what he said. That's what he ended up saying, that everything is vanity. If you read that, really do us. I know most people read it one way, but I want you to realize something. When I read the Word of God, nobody's words are in my mind. No one. No one. So when I read the Word of God, it's as it is given. Most of the interpretation, I don't interpret the Word of God. It's almost like when I'm reading, there's a spiritual interpretation, some of which I communicate, some I don't. But King Solomon, he lost the Ark of the Covenant. He had 1,000 concubines. He messed up big portions of the kingdom. How was he some example of what a king was? Sure, he built the temple. Sure, he did other things. But he ended up babbling gibberish in the streets. Why? Because he became something he was not. See, in the beginning, he was very sincere with the Most High. He did not want to assume a role of anything because he said, your people, God, they need a real king. They need a king who will speak truth to them. They need a king that is real. Now, when the Lord endowed him with lots of wisdom, he had all the riches, which means all the constraints were gone. What did he do? He examines everybody's life. See, if you have all wisdom, things are going to get pretty boring pretty fast. He examined everybody's life, and he lived the life of everybody who could, only to come back and say all of it's useless. What kind of when I heard somebody say that, and they said, all is vanity, I was thinking in my head, I said, that must be King Solomon. People read that, and because he was endowed with the greatest wisdom that ever was or would be again, a lot of people say, well, that's it, that's the truth. No, he's admitting something here. He's telling you something here. He's actually communicating something. He had 1,000 concubines. He was sifted. He was sifted big time by women, and he couldn't help himself. And he was the smartest person that ever was or will be, again, the most wise. The lesson in that book for me was this. All the wisdom in the world cannot help you against your urges. You have to be genuine. You have to be yourself, no matter what. If you put on some strange garments and you begin to live as other people, you're going to fail every single time. That's what came out of that. No matter how rich you are, no matter how wise you are, you deviate from the Word of God, becoming what you want to be, what you see others being, because he emulated the lives of others. And he lost himself in the process. He lost himself so much he could not see that he was defiling the kingdom, that he was going against the statutes, commandments, and judgments of the living God, that he had almost cursed the entirety of the kingdom. And as soon as he found out about all those lifestyles, it cost him everything. That's why he said all is vanity, all is useless. Do you know why? Because he could not keep who God made him to be by seeking out the lives to be those people that live in the world. You cannot be those people who live in the world keeping the Word of God. You can forget it. It's not going to work. You cannot put on the character you made to yourself. Read the Bible and think somehow you're going to make it. You're going to damage more than you fix. If you emulate the world and mingle it with the Word of God, you do just what Israel did, because he admitted that he did just what God commanded Israel not to do, which is fornicate. When you start living your life like everybody else, I don't know if you guys read that thoroughly, but King Solomon lived a life of everybody. He took time out to live life as a drunkard, to see what the benefit was. If anything was in that, he did that. But see, by living that life, he started losing his own character. Now, this is the wisest person that ever was or will be again. And by reason of his wisdom, he said, I have to know the answer to this. So he lived that life. Came back and said all of it's vanity. He lived the life of a craftsman. All of it was vanity. He lived the life of a dad. All of it was vanity. He lived the life, so many different lives, and he came back and said all of it's vanity. And everything just repeats itself in an endless, vicious cycle. But did you catch it? Most people don't catch it. That's the way it is for the world. That is not the way it is for you. He said all is vanity. When you're living your life in the world, when you're living your life in these roles that the world gives you, all of it's vanity. He never once said that if you're serving the living God, that it was vanity. He said to live your life as a worldly person is vanity. Don't get me started on King Solomon. See, the first time somebody said, I asked somebody, I said, what is this story about? Ecclesiastes and all these different, what's that story about? Well, it's about a king who was the smartest that ever was, richest that ever was, and glory be to God, he built the temple, did a lot of good things. But all is vanity. What? That doesn't make sense. How can you say that and then say all is vanity? Well, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, what are you talking about? Then I read King Solomon in the context of the entire Word of God, and I found something different. The wisest man that ever was gave us a very wise statement that only he could obtain. And it was this: if you live your life for the world, all is vanity. If you live your life as a worldly person, there will be nothing new under the sun. You're going to go through a vicious repeating cycle. No matter what you do, you're going to have the same ending. That's what he said. You live a godly life. God does above and beyond what you're able to ask or think. It is not vanity. It is a blessing. It is vanity to live your life like the worldly people live their lives. You ever hear that before? Anybody ever hear that before? See, when you read that in context, it changes everything. You can extract the wisdom of every worldly character from King Solomon. You can see what the ending of any path of a worldly person is going to be, thanks to King Solomon. You can see the vicious cycle that no one in the world is ever going to nor has escaped, thanks to King Solomon. He lived it so we could know it. That's what he did. And the strongest encouragement he ever gave was not to forsake the world. Then let that wisdom stand as an example of what happens to anyone who lives in the world as the world. You're going to have the same ending as everybody else. Destruction. Nothing is going to work out the way you think. You're going to have small seasons of success only for it to be taken in different ways. Let me give you a case in point, something that comes from Ecclesiastes. You ready? You guys in your own personal lives, once you get rid of one problem, say you have a financial issue. So you take a year, you get rid of that financial issue. Possibly you just need to level out. You level out, then all of a sudden there's a relationship problem. Let's say you get the relationship problem. It's all worked out. All of a sudden you get these urges, right, of having some sort of companion. So it's always something that's going to nag and eat away at you. No matter what you fix, something else is right behind it. Haven't you noticed that? That's in Ecclesiastes. That was spoken of by King Solomon, that no matter what you fix, a breakdown is coming. They are back to back and they never cease until you die. That's what you come up, that's what happens. But what did Jesus say? The opposite, did they? Did not Jesus say the opposite? Yes, he did. He said the opposite. The Lord said the opposite, that nothing of your life would be vain. Didn't he? Did he not say that? That you will not do a useless work. Didn't he say that? That the work you begin here will translate into the eternal kingdom and it will please the Father. Didn't he say that? Didn't he say that? Didn't he say above measure? Didn't he say you'll do greater works than he did? So what's going on here? I'm telling you what's going on. Did you not know that the book of Ecclesiastes, and how many of you have read the entirety of all of it that they have available in Israel? Not too many people, huh? It's enough. What's in the Bible is enough. Because you'll see the same thing. In every life he lived, he found out it was useless. In every lifestyle, it was useless. What does Jesus tell us we can have? We can have the peace that surpasses all understanding. We can enter into a place of rest. Why are the words of Jesus contrasted from King Solomon so much? Because, can't you hear it? King Solomon gave us the wisest lesson anybody could ever have. It's the exact same word God told Israel. You know what God told Israel? He told Israel, when you go into that promised land, you're going to fornicate. You're going to fall away. You're going to go back into captivity. You're going to have exile. You're going to be exiled. But in fact, the Bible says, out of all the kingdoms on the earth, only Israel has been through the extringent times. No kingdom has suffered what Israel has. And wars and desolations are decreed unto the very end in the book of Daniel for Israel. They will have no peace until the Lord returns, until they say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Do you know that? Do you know that? But why? Why? Because Israel. Has anybody read the whole Bible? I mean the whole thing from Genesis to Revelation. Have you read the whole thing? If you read the whole thing, you find out something. Israel is a mirror of you. Your life. No, there's nobody on earth who can formulate the writings the way they are. Israel is a reflection of your life. It's a reflection. It shows when God delivered us and what we did with that first deliverance. It shows how we came back to him on our knees because everybody was against us and we burnt out all our resources, the prodigal son. How that we were built back up again with a promise of character that is a blessing. And how we were empowered enough to begin to mingle that with other people's beliefs. And we fell again. It shows us the various regions of our lives that we continue to put on these external characters. In other words, we have a problem with the world. We have an addiction with the world. We have a craving for the world that we're in constant denial of. And it takes an admittance, a type of confession, to be free of it. You'll never be free of these various addictions, of trying to be like the world and craving and desiring things of the world, unless you confess it first. There is no redemption without repentance, is there? And in repentance, there is a confession. Is there not? Isn't that something? Jesus gave us a simple way. And now it's time not only to get rid of the baggage, but to truly become who God made us to be. Not to lose ourselves in our character. Not to, by way of our passions, be misdirected, misguided. Do you guys know what happened to Judas Iscariot? Judas did not begin evil. So what went wrong? Anybody know what went wrong? It's a very simple story. Let me clue you in. When Judas Iscariot found out that they were trying to kill Jesus, he would take notice of that. And that's noted in the scriptures. And he had great compassion upon the Christ. Listen to me. He had great compassion. Do you know that? Great compassion. So what went wrong? With his great compassion, he wanted Jesus to continue because he knew they were trying to kill him. And so with his little talk with the high people of that land, he took payment to turn Christ in. Why did he take the payment? Because by way of his compassion, he thought that best for Christ. Oh, we got a problem. We got a problem. Because you don't want to become a Judas Iscariot. Right? Listen to me. Listen to me. When you have great compassion, and then you later find out that your great compassion misguided you, that's when you hang yourself. That's when you kill yourself. Because you find out that your great compassion was highly misguided. See, a criminal is not going to hang themselves because they turn somebody in. An evil person is not going to hang themselves because they turn somebody in. But somebody with compassion who finds out that they were so blind they could not see that they were handing somebody over to death, their conscience is going to be ate up, their heart is going to be ate up, and they will kill themselves. Misguided compassion is a murdering weapon. That means without God's guidance, your passion is dangerous. That's what it means. You can be easily fooled into destroying someone through your passions. Have you ever heard somebody one time? Somebody said that they said, well, I'm going to shut down COT. That's what they said. They said, because Mike would be better off without COT. I'm going to help him out. I'm going to shut it down. Now, that's misguided compassion. That's when a person believes that they're right so much, right? And it's not that they're evil. No, it's that they're not hearing from God. You know what makes a person evil? When they hear from the devil and do something the devil says. Not when you do something that God says. He's the one that can see. He's the one that's not the author of confusion. He's the one that does not conspire. Satan conspires. So if you hear from Satan, you're a vessel of evil. To hear from Satan with your compassion makes you evil. Do you hear me? So it doesn't matter how much compassion you have. If your compassion can cause you to act on the words of the enemy, you're dangerous. Have you ever heard of a dangerous person in a relationship? Have you ever heard somebody refer to another person in a relationship and they say that person's dangerous? Why? Because through cunning, through a sincere compassion for the other person, but with a massive blindness, with great blindness, they destroy everything they touch. And they don't even know how. They don't know how they're destroying so much. But they're killing everything. Why? Because when you're blind and you're compassionate, you'll do anything that a person can convince you into doing. That picture they put in your head, you're going to do that, have that picture, right? You're going to act on that with a blindness, of course, with great compassion, which means nothing can stop you. And the depth, or you would say the lowest point you would have to go to accomplish something you don't care, because compassion makes you overlook everything. So a person who is blind to the truth, to God's truth, who is operating on massive compassion is dangerous. There are lots of people in the world that say they killed their children because they loved their children and they didn't want their children to suffer. That's not their call. That is not their call. But can you see, like that woman that drove her children into a lake? And she cried the whole time because she loved them and she was going to miss them. And she drowned them to save them from this wicked world. She didn't apologize in court. She didn't apologize when they sentenced her. And she likely cries to this very day. Your emotions are a weapon to be reckoned with. The key is acting on God's truth. His word, not your word, not my word. Misguided compassion is what Judas Iscariot got. That's what he had. Do you remember when Peter was out there praying and he fell asleep, and you know what the Lord said? Let me show you another example of misguided compassion. Peter comes up to Christ and says, Christ, don't do it, Lord. What did the Lord say? Get behind me, Satan. Didn't he? He was talking to Peter. The same Peter, the one who said, who do men say that I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ. And then Jesus said, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. Upon this rock, I'll build my church. What rock? Faith. Upon the rock of faith. Faith is a rock. And that rock is faith, that belief. His identification of Christ from the Father is what the church is based on. Not identification of Christ through archaeology. Not identification of Christ through deduction. No, but by faith alone, by faith only. That identification of Christ is the rock the church is built upon, that the gates of hell cannot prevail against. Because it does not matter what evidence is produced. Opposite that, once you receive Christ by faith, there is no evidence that can nullify it. Why? Because you did not believe by evidence. You believed by faith, which was by a revealing of your Father in heaven. Satan cannot tamper with that. But he can tamper with evidence. He can tamper with somebody talking you to death, and they present you with so many different pieces of paperwork and things that they make the dots connect, and they say, because the dots connect, I believe, because all somebody has to do is come behind them and make greater dots connect, and you'll disbelieve. Nobody did anything to make Peter believe. Nobody did anything to make Peter identify Christ, except it was given to him by God Almighty. And upon that rock, Christ built this church. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That means if you believe Christ any other way than by faith, you're not believing in Christ. You just know of the person. You're convinced by weight of the evidence that he existed, and you're still trying to work out the faith part. From birth, nobody had to tell me about Christ. As long as I can remember back, I never disputed if Jesus was real. I never disputed if God was real. Never, never once. I've been dumb sometimes and had considerations almost slip into my mind. Well, what if Jesus did? Oh, get back, get away. Because early in my life, I identified something that no one presented evidence to me of Christ nor God Almighty. And I wholeheartedly believed in Christ and God Almighty. I didn't know all about either, but I believed. That did not come from the world. That was given to me of a source higher than this world. So nothing on earth, nor in the heavens, nor beneath the earth can take it away. That is the church Christ has put together. That is the rock of the church. And again, the rock of the church is what? The revealing of Jesus Christ to each individual by the living God. That is the rock. And the gates of hell cannot prevail against that. Because everything they come with, well, the Anunnaki created you. Nope, sorry. Well, it was Anu. Nope, sorry. Well, they came from this planet. Nope, sorry. Well, you formed from monkeys. Whoop, nope, sorry. Not believing any of that. I know all about those little theories. I don't believe any of it. Because before any of that ever came to my mind, Christ was there. In my mind, before I could speak, I believed. Somebody said, how do you remove your emotions? You don't remove your emotions. My goodness, I haven't got to that part yet. You don't want your emotions removed. No. This talk today is to reseat yourself in your own identity. That's the problem. People don't even, listen, humanity calls emotions. I may be a little weird. I call them something else. They are not emotions to me. They're something else. I just use that word emotions. That's what people are used to. And just to show you how crazy that is, when I first went to kindergarten, I had my very own alphabet. I did. The weird part is, right? Somebody could hand me an encyclopedia, and I was already familiar with reading all those. I don't even know how I did that, but I could read the words in an encyclopedia, right? I knew about pronunciation, all this other stuff, but I had my own alphabet. You know how long it took them to break me from that? Because when they first, listen, I was horrified when they said that's not a real alphabet. I was like, what? That was a shocker. It was. It was. That's only kindergarten. But I skipped the first grade. And you know, when it didn't make me smart, it just meant I was an inquisitive kid. But see, when I first began, I remember something. I went by what was already within me. I did. They were just practices of the world that I already knew about. I don't know how, but I did. Because I was a troublesome person. I really was a troublesome person. I don't think any teacher liked me. I just don't. I don't. Because I didn't believe anything they were saying. I did not. I didn't. That's terrible, isn't it? I just didn't. Anyway. Just like I don't believe now that I'm, you know, a little older, right? A little wiser from being in kindergarten, and I've been exposed to a few things. I know they're lying. They are masterful at presenting a world to people that does not exist, and that world is falling apart every single day. In essence, they have taught people to become actors, machine parts, call it what you will, but people have formed themselves to fit in this world machine to keep this world machine going. Guess what? The world does not need that machine that they have built. And that machine is the system, the same system Revelation talks about. And it's unnecessary. So our talk today is going to be about identification. And it's not going to be long at all. It won't. But it's a very serious consideration I personally would like all of you to take. I know what happens when you're living outside your God-given identity. I know what happens when you allow men to name who you are. When I first began, men named who I was. They did. They told me who I was. And I had to recenter myself back in those things that God gave me naturally. Only when I did that did I start finding who I am. When I come back, we'll begin. And that is the intro again. So that's 2 intros you guys got. 2 intros. But when I come back, we're going to talk about becoming who you are. Becoming who God made you to be. Not who we have created, not who by compassion we have become, who God made you to be. Because for the most part, we've allowed too many people to name us. Do you not know that a person, they can compliment you, make you feel good, needed, wanted, and useful, and all of a sudden, whatever they said, you start becoming because of a compliment. Time to undo all of that. If you believe we're in the last days, you cannot afford for Christ to come back, and you are in strange garments. None of us can afford that. And it's not a tall order. It's something very simple, something natural to you. It's time to wake that back up again. So you won't be so tired. You will not be worn out. It's impossible for a person to be all worn out if they're doing exactly what they're designed to do. We get worn out when we become something God did not make us to be. It is hard to keep up the game of charades, isn't it? It is very difficult to continue to act like something you're not. You know how you get around people, you go to a company party, you're smiling, you're not happy you're there. You're thinking about other things, but we put on this false smile, don't we? And we act like we're so pleased to be there, don't we? And we're doing that to keep our jobs because of job security, isn't it? But the truth is we don't want to be there. It's time to act as you truly are in a truthful manner. One of the biggest problems was we're so frightened. We're so frightened of losing anything in this world. We're terrified of losing anything in this world. And God addressed that to Christ. There is nothing you can lose on this earth. The Father will not restore unto you sevenfold. Let's say multifold. It didn't say sevenfold. You can't lose. Do you know why? Before I go on break, do you know why? Let me tell you guys something, just for you. If something truly belongs to you, no one and nothing will ever keep it separated from you. If something does not belong to you, you're going to spend most of your time trying to hold on to it. And as soon as you shut your eyes, turn your back, sleep 1 hour too many, it's gone. You'll never hold on to what does not belong to you. And no one can ever steal and keep what truly belongs to you. You'll always be unified with what belongs to you. Now, look at your life and ask yourself something. Do I have what belongs to me? Or am I trying to hold on to what I just want? Am I trying to hold on to what I want, or do I want what belongs to me? Because if you're trying to hold on to everything you want, you're getting old too fast. The Lord gives you hints. He'll cause an incapability to come upon you. You won't be able to hold it. Why does he do this? So that if you got your hands closed around a coffee cup, right? And you only had one hand, you're holding that coffee cup up and it's full of coffee. How can I give you your coffee cup? You won't be able to receive it because your hand will be closed on a cup that doesn't belong to you. Right? So you're going to settle for coffee you don't like instead of having your own coffee cup with the coffee that was made specifically for you. Both are coffee. That's how we both see it at the beginning. But the taste matters once you become wiser. The contents matter as you become older, don't they? Just like your food. What's in your food did not matter when you were young. Now it matters because you're older and wiser. I'll be back in a few minutes right here at the Council of Time. All right, everybody, I'm back again. Identity. Here we go. You guys ready for this? Just so you know, I'll tell you at the end of the if you've been nosy in the site, then you know about the COT files. If you've been nosy. If not, you don't know. But identity is an actual file there. But there are some content disclosures, notices of use, and agreements that had to be adhered to prior to reading that one. Folks, your identity, being exactly who God intended you to be. Now we can all realize this world is a pressuring place, isn't it? It's your Father's world, usurped by darkness, right? In this world, right now, it is a scary place to try and survive. When we're young, we act tough, right? We're tough. We can do anything. We're tough. But all of us end up doing things to survive, correct? People take certain jobs. They do certain things. They say certain things to survive. They're trying to continue. They're trying to live, support their families, all sorts of things. But for the most part, people are trying to survive, unless you're entitled. And consequently, I've never met a person who comes from one of these entitled families who truly believes in Christ. I've never met one before. Maybe you guys have, I have not. But survival is a very scary thing. And many of you guys, when you were being raised up, you found out what pain was, discomfort was, unfairness, and all these different qualities the world seems to induce people. right, with, what those are. And so you safeguard against those things from being hurt, from being injured, from being too sick, from being without medications, all these different reasons you have to be who you are. It comes down to a choice. You can continue being who you have worked on for so long, or you can become well acquainted with yourself yet again and become exactly what God made you to be. How many of you have found out that being someone that you created to survive in the world or to be in a relationship or to have success has come at cost? It leaves you powerless, right? You have good seasons sometimes, but for the most part, those seasons crash with enormous noise. Many of us know this, and many people they don't like the idea of their life crashing again. It is frightening. That's the first thing to admit. It is frightening, right? And if you've had that too much in your life, you don't want to go back to that. Some people even simplify their lives to get away from that so it won't happen again. But hear me on this. I want you to look at what you're doing. What are you protecting when it comes to yourself? What are you protecting? Aren't you protecting yourself from being hurt again? Aren't you protecting yourself from suffering? Aren't you? Nobody likes to be hurt again. Nobody likes to suffer. Nobody likes to get deathly sick. It's like cancer. People get terrified when their cancer is in remission. Then all of a sudden, they get diagnosed again. That's terrifying. That's a lot to go through with, right? So health scares you. In other words, here it is. You ready? Here it is. Because you guys are rejection. That's one, right? Right. Generally, all those fit in one category. What is it? Starts with an F. What is it called? Fear. Fear. This is the only thing I want you to see tonight. I mean, really capture this. Is that if you're avoiding a broken heart, you're living your life by fear. If you're avoiding being hurt again, you're living your life by fear. When you live your life to avoid these things, is not fear guiding you? Isn't it? Fear is guiding you. God did not give us the spirit of fear. So that means it's something that we adopt. And we can look back on our lives and see why we adopted it, how it came to be so close to us. That statement, that scripture in the Bible, is very telling. God did not give us a spirit of fear. We could stop right there and find something out. If God did not give us the spirit of fear, then guess what? Who did? Who did? Who gave us a spirit of fear? Fear is a doorway to a lot of other entities. Fear causes a person to do many bad things in life that do not result too good, right? But for the most part, when you live your life by fear, you're guided by fear, not by the Lord. If you're dodging something, you're living your life by the spirit of fear, not by the direction of the Most High. Do you see that? If I, right, will not take a position because of my fear, then fear is guiding me to take a position that won't be associated with what I fear the most. And believe me, Satan knows all of your fears. Every last fear you have, Satan knows. Your enemy knows what you're fearful of. How does he know that? Because you have demonstrated what you're afraid of from day one. It's not that he can read your mind. That doesn't matter. That's inconsequential. We have shown any spirit out there what we're afraid of. Anything we can't see in the spiritual realm that can observe us, we have demonstrated on a consistent basis of what we're afraid of. Why we cry, what upsets us. Listen to me. That's called arming darkness. That's when you arm darkness. You give it all the ammunition it needs. And how does it all begin? By choosing. Listen, by choosing these personifications that we come up with, by emulating people in the world, by being scared to death of what we faced when we were young. That's true. Now we get to this day and age when we can clearly see that things are not going right in the world. More and more spiritual activity is taking place now more than ever. The earth itself is changing, right? Strange things are happening in the heavens, on the earth, and beneath the earth, and within people. The time when we need to be exactly who God intended us to be. People are living a life based on fear. That's a tactic. But guess what? With every tactic, there's a recognition of that tactic. And when you recognize it, you no longer have to live your life as a consequence of that tactic. See, with the Lord, you can reseat your life right now, and he will guide you. See, some of you don't know what that is. Or let's put it this way, you don't remember what that is. But you've surely been guided. Every single last one of you who believe in Christ, you have an example or multiple examples in your life of being guided by the Spirit. But by way of fear, right? Here's what fear does. Let me give you a small story of your life. By way of fear, at a low point, you met someone. At that low point, not a high point, low point, you met someone, right? I'm talking to those people first. At the low point, you met someone. And that person listened to you. That person could actually communicate with you. And because you were at that low point, they took time with you. Anybody who takes time with you at a low point, you're going to say a masterful thing. They understand me. That's the main reason I do not talk to women when they are distressed. I can't do it because of that. Because if you listen, right, if I were to listen to my counterparts, women, if I were to listen, then that woman would become vulnerable thinking that I'm listening just to her. And so her mind would go in a different direction. That's why I don't do it. I can't do it. I would like to, but it would be taken the wrong way. And I avoid those things on purpose out of decency. That's why I don't talk to any woman in distress or outside of the company of an own woman, right? I don't do that. But that's what happens to a lot of people. So they meet that person. But what you don't know is this person does not share the same faith you have, not the way you have. They may talk about Christ. They may talk about the club. They may talk about whatever you talk about. Isn't it funny how they can take the time to get to know you? Then, when you start working through your problem, something interesting happens. You start working through your problem, and your original character comes back. Not the one that was at that low point, but the character before that starts to come back. When it comes back, right, you still have the other partner who's listening to you at that low point, but you're changing too much. So now they have to accept a totally different person. You try to bring them up, but you find out they're not what you thought they were. Uh-oh. Now when you try to elevate, and normally, listen, when somebody who is truly born of the Lord is in this world and they fall real far down, right? And they meet someone down there and they start to recover. For the most part, when they start to recover, they find out as they start going back to their Christian roots, they find out the other person is not their complement. That's when you find out you're unequally yoked. That's when the other person raises up and says, well, surely you don't believe in that nonsense. You don't read the Bible that way, do you? Anybody ever hear that? I believe in God, but not that way. You hear that? That's one of those tactics. That's what happens. But you see how it all began by fear? Now you're at a point of instability. Now you're faced with more choices, and your life is full of confusion. Satan is the author of confusion. Who do you think planted that personality in the first place? Who do you think gave that desire to that individual to listen to every word you had to say? I've seen people that were not interested in another person, and then something would happen 5 days later. The person they were not interested in looks like an angel to that individual. But then when they recover as a couple, it does not work out at the midpoint. Then it's chaos. Often domestic violence is involved. And then it parts and both people end up torn to pieces again. That's one of the tactics of Satan. That's one of his tactics. If he can guide your life by fear, when you're in that moment of fear, when you're making choices and decisions because you fear things, he's got you. Listen, though, if you make your choices by the Spirit, he has no chance. And what I mean by that, to make a choice by the Spirit, here's the difference. Suppose I go to work and I'm about to get fired, right? And I know I'm about to get fired because of something that happened or something I did, whatever the case is. But I can't do without the income. Satan knows that. So, of course, he's going to set up bait, right? At that moment, he's going to set up something that will attach itself to me because he knows the promise over God's children, that they will have a victory after victory. So he knows I'm going to come right back up again. But he wants to stop me from coming up again. He wants to keep me down. So he starts to influence somebody else. And at the moment I'm down, they notice me, or I notice them. That's an assignment. That's what that is. See, the world will tell you, oh, yes, you find somebody down there when you're in your lowest point, and they really love you, then they really love you. That's the world stuff. That's worldly stuff. First of all, if you find somebody, you're not yourself, you're doing something very unfair to that other person. You can't find someone when you're in trouble because you're not yourself. Often, not all the time, but often, it does not end up so good. If that were to happen to me, I've got a choice to make. If I know I'm getting fired, the Lord will speak to me. Because I'll have that nagging thought in my mind, you've got to make the right decisions. But fear can cause me to sidestep righteousness to save my own skin. And the Bible says, those who seek to save their lives are going to lose it. Does that start to make sense? Because when you're operating out of fear, you're trying to save your own life. And to try and save your own life, you often have to sidestep righteousness because everything you do in righteousness looks like it's going to fail. When you go forward in righteousness, it looks like it's going to fail. It does not project a pretty picture. It looks like it's going to be fruitless, not fruitful. And only by faith can you step into that righteous path in the first place because you cannot fully see everything. That captures a lot of people. Then you get stuck in a situation. So what do you do when you're stuck in this situation? How many people are stuck in a situation like that? One of the first things you have to do is you have to become yourself, not this other person. You're going to have to break the ice. And what I mean by breaking the ice is this. When you love the Lord and a person says, don't believe the Bible that way, it's time to say, let me tell you what's at stake here. Imagine yourself sitting in your home you've been reserved concerning what the Lord put in you. All of a sudden, the sky opens up. The National Emergency Alert System goes off. The ground shakes, and you smell smoke and stuff. It's too late. You start hearing loud noises. It's over. Your mind's going to go all over the place. Then you look outside, and you see nothing but orange on the horizon. You don't know if you're going to live or die. And at that point, if you die, right, then your plight here on this earth is over. Will you have made all the right choices in good conscience with the Most High? I can almost guarantee at that point people will say, Lord, please let me just be acceptable to you. That should not be your prayer. You should know right now today, if you've done everything that you could do in righteousness, nothing should be left to question. You shouldn't say, I hope I did everything right. You should say, nope, Lord, I did everything I could potentially do. That's your stance. Never saying, I hope I did everything right. Don't do that to yourselves. In the Bible, it says, having done all that you can do to stand, stand therefore. That's what the Bible says. You know what that means? That means you exhaust all righteousness within yourself for the sake of righteousness and your Father in heaven, having that assurity that you have made decisions based on holiness. Because when you do that, that's when you stand in confidence. That's your confidence. You cannot stand in confidence when you leave things undone. You cannot stand in confidence when you didn't pray. You can't stand in confidence when you did not seek out those things of the Lord that he has placed in your heart. You just left it to chance to go watch a movie. Of course you're going to have somebody pulling on you, nagging on you all the time. These are choices we make. You're choosing between righteousness and the world. Some of you have gotten into situations, and it's unfair, isn't it, guys? Your heart is for the Lord. Now that you're mending in all different places, you don't know how to communicate to everybody else. Listen, my passion is with the Most High, and you guys are holding me back. You don't know how to communicate that, do you? That's when you need the Lord's help. Listen to me. He made you a promise. When you're in a situation like that, number one, you got to reseat yourself back into you got to find out who you are by not operating in fear. Everybody's starting to get that? We lose who we are when we operate in our emotions, specifically fear, to try and save our own situation. The Lord already promised you, you don't have to save your own situation. He'll do it. But make sure that situation is yours. You don't want to have an assignment right beside you. An assignment is somebody who's going to be gone away from you as soon as you're destroyed. Their whole plan is to hold you back from holiness. Haven't you noticed? Everything is all good until you open up your Bible, until you start praying again, until you start forgiving again. When you stop accusing, they want to say something to you. Why don't you accuse that person? What's wrong with you? Are you on the right side? Somebody said that to me one day. They said, you mean to tell me you agree with that? They were referring to a situation that was happening. You know what I said? I don't recall telling you anything. But I'll tell you right now, I agree with Christ Jesus. That person got up and ran out the room. That was funny. You'd be surprised how many people get up and run out the room on that statement. When you say that, you mean it. It does something spiritually in the atmosphere. But an assignment will keep you tied down to pointing your finger at somebody. You know what happens when you point your finger? King Solomon talked about it. When you point your finger at someone, you're judging. You know what Jesus said? Judge not that ye be not judged. For whatever measure that you judge somebody with, you will be judged. So every time we criticize somebody for not being able to perform their specific duties in specific capacities, guess what happens to us? Somebody else points to us because we can't maintain our specific duties in our capacities. Isn't that funny? And we stay locked up in these situations because reaping and sowing, if it did not operate, would be a mockery of God's word. Didn't the Lord say he will not be mocked? Right? God's word will not return void. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he reap also. The season of sowing and reaping will always be. God will not be mocked. His word will not return void. That will not fail. That's what he's telling us. Reaping and sowing will never, ever fail. So every time you point and criticize, somebody points and criticizes to you, somebody close to you, not somebody distant. It's not going to hurt me if a stranger criticizes me. It's going to hurt me if my loved ones criticize me. Satan's going to work through vessels you love, vessels you care about, vessels you spend all that time with. That's who he's going to use. He's not going to use a stranger. Who cares if a stranger comes up and says, I don't like the way you're dressed? Well, have a good day. But if your loved ones come up and insult you, that hurts, doesn't it? When they come up and point a finger at you and say all manner of evil against you, that hurts. When a stranger does it, it's only a stranger, but when it comes from those people that you have a vested interest in, that hurts, right? Isn't that simple? That's how Satan works. Assignments do that too. As soon as you're about to break free from worldly thoughts. Like, say, for example, you don't want to sit down and watch that defiled movie on television. And within your heart of hearts, you're saying, I don't want to do this. But then you start getting used to entertainment again, but you didn't tell anybody. Now you're in a struggle between light and dark. You really are. Because if you watch that movie, you have vulnerabilities and questions. And the more you watch it, the less impact it has. The less cursing you start hearing. The more you're able to put up with these defiled subjects and things. And it has no impact like it once did. Now you're becoming used to the sin, and the sin is not so bad. It becomes your environment. Before you know it, you're degraded, in depth. You have a route back because the Lord will make a way of escape when you're caught in sin like that. But you can't operate by fear and accept that way of escape that the Lord presents you. Listen to me. The Lord makes a way of escape out of a sinful situation. Did you hear that? That's the way of escape out of a sinful situation. When it says the Lord will make a way of escape, he's talking about a sinful situation. Now, when he said, pray that you're worthy to escape all these things and to stand before the Son of Man, that's different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the way of escape he makes for you. That's out of a sinful situation. Many of you have seen that choice. You had an opportunity to go, but you didn't go, did you? You didn't go because you didn't know how you were going to make it, because the only way you can get out of sin is by faith in the Lord. And if you have to have faith in the Lord to get out of a sinful situation, it's going to look like you're going to jump out there into nothingness and everything's going to fall on your head. That's what it will look like. That's faith, though. Faith is when you cannot see the promise on the other side. Faith is when God says, Mike, take a step, and I can't even see where the next step is. That's faith. If I take that step, I did so by faith. If I can see where I'm going, that's not by faith. That's by sight. You guys understand that scripture now? We walk by faith and not by sight. To walk by sight means you're walking in a path you have planned or that you can see. To walk by faith means you're guided by the Most High and you cannot see where you're going. Jesus said, come follow me. He didn't say, come and lead me. It makes a difference. The world has taught all of you to never walk in a direction you cannot see. The world has gotten all of you used to seeing your provision. You're not used to depending upon your provision from the Most High, are you? You're not used to that. So that if all the food were rotten in one day, people would truly roll over and die. Not me. Not me. The Lord has given us opportunity after opportunity to start living by faith. How so, Mike? Everybody that I'm talking to has had a time where they did not have enough resources for a meal at some point in your life. Something happened. That was an opportunity, not some vicious thing. Many of you had something attached to you, though, that fussed at you, that pointed at you saying it was your fault, causing you to feel the heaviness of that situation. Many of you took on that situation as to yourselves and you said, I failed. No, you didn't. That's the circumstance. Everybody has those. Those are like flies. The world tells you you got to perfect everything you're doing in the world. In other words, by the world telling you to perfect your lives, the world is asking you to always have faith in the world. Isn't that how you keep your jobs? Having faith in your job. You don't know what your job is doing. You work there for money, right? Because if they didn't pay you money, you would not work there. Correct? Your identity. You can't find that. Living your life by fear, being guided by fears. This making sense to somebody? Is it? Walking by faith is key. Because I'll tell you something. What would happen if you thought a cliff was in front of you and the Lord said, come forward? And so you said, Lord, I'm going to walk by faith now. People would tell you, dummy. People would say this. You idiot. You take a step, you're going to die. That's what they would tell you. You're going to waste your life. That's what they would tell you. Guess what the Lord would tell you? To die is gain. You know what would happen in reality? You would take that step if the Lord commanded you, and you would stand firm. And while everybody else is watching in wonder, you would not be. You would step onto a path that is unknown to you. But at that point, you would start trusting the voice of the Lord. It takes one step. Notice, you didn't fall at all, did you? You know what the Lord said about the world? They don't have the truth, which means they thought it was a cliff. It was never a cliff. The Lord would never tell you to walk off a cliff. It's just that the world cannot see a cliff. So to them, you're going to die. The Lord simply called you forward, closer to him. The world cannot see that step, so they can't believe in that step. They have no confidence in what they cannot see, touch, feel, and analyze. They have no confidence. But you're not of the world. Do you know why? Because you had confidence in the Lord before you had confidence in the world. You believed in the mystical things, and no one's been able to remove that from you. You did not believe in Christianity like everybody else did around you. They were stuck in a traditional belief guided by people. You have very complex views, and people are not unable to answer the craving you have in you for those things of the Spirit. How many generations pop up that crave the spiritual realm? So when you hear a story about some ET or something like that, it's not that you want to go worship an ET. You're trying to get verification that, wait a minute, since I was born, I knew something was wrong with this world, and people cannot see what I'm feeling. And no one has answered anything yet. And I need to know. I want to know, right? Who wouldn't want to know? You don't perceive the spiritual things like the average person. What people would instantly discount, you just simply pause. When it comes to those spiritual things, you know they're real, and you would like to see them because you already know they're real. You just want to know you're not nuts. But it's so funny how an entire generation of people like you are right here, right now. You're right here, right now. That's why when 2012 came up in 2007, 8, and 9, you heard about 2012 back then. Many people didn't pay attention, but then you heard about the prophecies of 2012. You don't have to admit it here, but secretly in your mind, you were like, yes, yeah, buddy, let something take place. Could this be the coming of the Lord? You got happy when they were talking about earthquakes. You had prophecies that talk about earthquakes, stuff killing people. You're like, oh, yes. Because there's an element within you. Somehow you know you're going to see something. You can't explain it. But spiritually, it's like your spirit is built. And prophecy is in your spirit. And you can't get rid of it. You can't. You tried it. How many people try to be normal? Come on now, just tell the truth. How many people try to be normal? And you said, I'm going to be like everybody else in a traditional Christian. And then you sat there and you got absolutely 100% bored. And something died within you. You cannot go a day without prophecy. Prophecy is part of you. You know what the Bible, when it says, When God said to John on the Isle of Patmos, right, John of the Isle of Patmos, when he was taken up into the Spirit with this vision of revelation, he said that he approached an angel, and he heard seven thunders utter something. He said, don't write down what the seven thunders uttered. Right after that, he says, they gave him a book, and he said, eat this book, and in your mouth it's going to be sweet as honey in your stomach, right? It's going to be bitter. What do you think that book was? If he was told not to write down what the seven thunders uttered, it's not the first time somebody ate a book or scroll or something, right? Every time a human being does this, that is prophecy. I hope you know that. So what the seven thunders uttered, he was not able to write down because it was in a book, and he had to eat that book. And guess what the Lord said? You're going to have to prophesy before many kings, people, tongues, all these different people. Again, you're going to have to prophesy this. How so? He had to eat it. What does that mean? It became part of the human spirit of a type of people. It is my firm belief that you share in that spirit. Why is revelation tugging at you? Because that prophecy is within you. Why do you not have a problem with revelation? With all these people who had a problem with revelation, you don't. You don't. You may not have figured everything out, but there's a confirmation inside of you for revelation you can't explain. You don't know why you're so intrigued and so believing of it. It's almost like you have an anticipation of revelation. And if somebody starts talking about every subject but revelation, you don't have interest in that because you're a part of prophecy. You have prophecy in you. You were born with that. So you were one of the ones that looked up in the sky. Many of you were the ones who cried because of the heavens. Don't tell me you did not notice something in the heavens, something of the heavens, not necessarily a dot, not that, but that the heavens were there. And something in you perceives more than dots in the sky. Many of you have little to no idea the strength in you. It is part of who you are. If God gives a vessel strength, they're living in a time of opposition. Don't you know that? And since your youth, you've had strength when it comes to the Word of God and faith. Everybody has slipped. Everybody has had doubts. But you kept coming back. And it's a strong yearning in you to see the closure of the Lord. There's a strength in you that your alcoholism couldn't get out. The drugs couldn't get out. The bad relationships and the abuse couldn't get out. The depression couldn't get out. It was still there. That is strength. Why would God put strength of prophecy in somebody so strong? Why would he do that? Because he knew the time you were coming up in. He knew you would come up in a time full of confusion when everybody wants you to believe in a bunch of different doctrines. If he didn't add that strength portion to you, you would have lost your desire for prophecy a long time ago. You would have been broken and crushed like the hundreds of millions that were crushed in 2012. You would have died from depression. Most of you, you may not admit it, but because you have prophecy so strong in you, you've also been depressed. You can't explain it. You cannot explain the fact that you get depressed or you go down in slumps very easily and very fast. You can't explain that. You've tried to find a reason. You've tried to reason it out. You can't figure out what in the world is happening. How you can be around so many people and still feel like you're alone and dead. How empty you felt at times. How pointless life became. Because if you're not connected to prophecy, you're way outside of your path. Haven't you figured that out? Only on the path of prophecy do you have fulfillment, strength, right? Or you're renewed on that path of prophecy. Now that you're older, right? You have to do that very responsibly. Very responsible. Because what the Lord put in you is no joke. See, and the world is about to change, and it doesn't look like it, does it? It doesn't look like, I'm not talking about a small change. Nope, I'm talking about a major change. A change where nothing goes back to the way it used to be. A change that's going to blow the average person's mind, or it's going to destroy their heart. That type change. And the Lord put something in you stronger than any change on earth. He put something in you that is enduring. And it won't go away. It's like a fly you can't swat. It always comes back, doesn't it? No matter what you do, no matter how normal you've tried to live, it always comes back. I'll tell you something. Once it ignites, we're not talking about your excitement level, but once it ignites, and it's soon to ignite, nothing will extinguish that fire. Nothing. Why do you think it all kind of went? You remember? You guys remember? It used to be on fire. You'd hear something about an earthquake, something about an eruption. You would be on fire. Then all of a sudden, in fact, in the year 2013, 14, and 15, they all went out. That was purposed. They all went out. I bet you don't know why, but it is known why. And I'm telling you that flame, if you think that flame got you excited, made you act differently, right? Some of you got physically excited at many different points. Remember when the documentaries started coming out? Many of you saw them. Certain readings and the way people were talking, you were getting excited. You were being fed prophecy when this time came about. Then it all died. It all died. That was purposed, so that your flame could be lit again, but in a different way. That's part of your identity. Not the false life people have been living in the world denying prophecy. How many of you have been caught, don't answer this, but you compromised because you find yourself among people who don't want to hear anything about prophecy. You think it's a coincidence? So many of you are around people who don't want to hear anything about prophecy. I mean, some people get angry. You mention prophecy. The very thing that's a part of you, you cannot operate by. It's almost like you have an overseer that watches so you do not get back in that prophetic spirit again. Well, guess what? That's not going to work either. That will not work. When that flame is lit, if they're too close, they're going to get burned up, period. In fact, I'm going to be bold. Honestly, you don't have to worry about anybody suppressing it. You don't. Because we live in a very unique time. A person, a story, an event is not going to light this flame. Your Father's going to light this flame. And if anybody's too close, I'm telling you now, they're going to be burnt out. That's why right now, with all the choices in front of you, the hardest choice you're ever going to make is to choose holiness and no longer be hid. That's a major choice, right? So what do you do before you make that choice? Because that's a major choice. What you do is stop operating by fear. You have to look at your life. You have to seriously consider your path. I want you guys to look at your life and ask this one question. How many things have I done because of fear? If fear is involved in anything you have done, right? Then your life has been guided to a degree by fear. The good thing about Calendar Zero, and all that is possible because of Christ, is that upon your recognition of that spirit of fear, right? Like when it happened to me, I said, yes, I've been walking, avoiding things. But I told that to the Most High. I said, yes, Lord, I did it. It's almost, when that word fear comes up, confusion is with it. How many have noticed that? When the subject of fear comes up, it's almost like something instantly comes to your mind to confuse your mind. You have no clarity. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It's like something jumbles up your thoughts. Something doesn't want that exposed. When you take that to Christ in prayer about your fear, listen to me, and you start naming the certain paths you took out of fear that you shouldn't have taken, the process of restoration can begin. See, as it turns out, the Lord never forces. He doesn't. Right? You know in the Bible when it says you have not because you ask not, what does that tell you right there? What does it tell you? The Lord's not going to go before you and make moves to somehow force you into the kingdom of God and force you into holiness. No. If you do not ask, how can you receive from the Lord? If you don't ask, it's not in your mind or heart. Therefore, if he gave it to you anyway, you would discard it as trash. If it is not in your heart, your mind, your soul, you're not going to recognize it. So God operates by your requests. What I'm telling you is by prayer, right? When you go to the Lord yourself, you don't even have to utter a word out of your mouth. You can speak the whole thing internally. But look at your life and realize the choices you've made based off fear. And look at where your life is and what your own personality is, what your own character is. When you spot that, then you say, Lord, look what I've become. This is not who you made me to be. Forgive me. You can only say forgive me when you realize you have compromised, when you realize that you have settled for things to protect your own future and life, when you didn't want the discomfort, when you were scared of pain, scared of being hurt, you made moves based off that fear. When you confess that fear, the Lord's help comes. Do you hear what I'm telling you? When you confess the truth, God operates in that realm of truth. God will never operate in a lie. I'm telling you what I know, not what I read. I didn't just read it, I know it. He will not operate in a lie. You can deceive yourself and think that he's operating in your lies. He's not. And when you sit there and say, I didn't do anything by fear, I'm not afraid, that's a lie. He's not going to operate in that. He's not going to bless that. It's actually in the way. And I can almost guarantee it grieves him that we do that. You don't have to be someone you're not, because who God made you to be is more powerful than any character the world could ever present. But you have to operate in truth. See, most people think truth and a lie is when somebody else does. Yet when we will not disclose or confess to Christ in a private prayer the true nature of our lives, is that not a lie on a daily basis? That is us concealing the truth. To conceal the truth is what? Deceit. So we are what? Deceiving the Lord and the Father we think we are. And we're choosing to do that. Why? Because we're operating out of fear. We'll never regain who God made us to be doing that. Can you all see that? Can you see it? How many can see that? Let's just take a short survey. How many can see that? Honestly, you can see it. Right? How many have noticed, even in the nature of prayers, when you're around people versus not around people, when you're around people, you're almost pressured to formulate something a certain way, aren't you? But when you're away from people, when you have your freedom, well, that's a different story. If that happens to you, then the truth is, we're doing this role-playing thing we can't afford to do anymore. And it has zapped us of abilities. It has zapped us of certain authorities. It has zapped us from fully being in contact with the Lord. Listen, I'm telling you something I know, and there's a contrast between being that way and opening up in truth. Because I'm a weird person, right? I am a weird person. Satan can't fool me because I know him quite well. And I am wherein things I say, they sound strange and weird, don't they? Until they take place, until somebody reports on it, until something is corroborated. And my response to that is Jimmy cracked corn. Do you know how many times a person would ask me something about them, and I would tell them, and they would hate me for it for years, only to come back in the 10th year and say, oh, that's exactly how that happened. No one could have told me, and I tell them the same thing. It's not me. It's not me. The Father works through us for the sakes of each other. That's how it works. He works through us. He worked through me just for you. So it's not about me. See, I'm careful to do that. I am not going to take credit for what the truth that God has given me. It's not my truth. I wouldn't have the truth if the Lord didn't give it to me. Why would a microphone brag on how well it sang? A microphone does not sing. The person that's using the microphone sings. Well, I'm a microphone. I'm not, I'm not the voice. I'm not the author of the true things that come behind it. If something stupid comes out, it's probably me. Your feedback, that's the microphone. Cracking and tickling noise, that's the microphone. A beautiful voice, that is not the microphone. Something moving, that's not the microphone. That's the person, right? So if you hear something really dumb, that's me. You hear something that comes out to be absolutely right, that's not me. Now it's your turn. Do you all see what this is? To not live your life by fear, to not be in denial that you were doing things because you were afraid of the consequences. That's living your life by fear. If you take a step and it's not guided by holiness, what is it guided by? What's guiding your steps? In the Bible it says the steps of a righteous man availeth much, right? It also says that the Lord walks out before us. That no man takes a step of himself. In fact, it says it is not within man to take a step of himself. What does he mean? Every step you take is influenced. But by whom? By what kingdom? By what kingdom? Because there's no middle ground. There's no idle area. And if it's not righteousness, it is in darkness and unholiness. It's that cut and dry. That's why God said, choose ye this day whom ye will serve. There's no middle person involved in that. Listen, though, when you realize that, you stop living your life by fear, right? To completely not live your life by fear is to confess to Christ, not to me, but to Christ. You do that in your secret place, your secret prayer place, wherever that is. So for some of you, it could be on your pillow. It could be anywhere in your house, so long as it's you in Christ. And once you see that, listen, the Lord will begin to open things you never thought possible. Things that have long been shut to you, that truly belong to you. They can only be opened to you, nobody else. And you're not going to lose anything the Lord had for you. That's hogwash. You know how somebody says, if you don't use your gifts, you're going to lose them. Wrong. That's not what the Lord says. You cannot lose something that belongs to you. Do you know why? How many of you in the last year have lost your heart? How many? Your physical heart, is it still in your body? What about your physical brain? Is it still there? Still, you can't lose your physical brain and still be you. So guess what? You cannot lose what the Lord has in store for you. You can't do that. You're not going to lose it. Oftentimes, the Lord stores it. But because it belongs to you, it can only go to you. It cannot go to anybody else but you. So you got a full package of what God intended for you in your life, still waiting on you. He will redeem the time. It requires our faith, our honesty with him. That's how you reseat yourself in your identity and kick fear out of your life. It does not mean you got to be mouthy. That's not what that is. To not take a step by fear is to take a sound step based on the Spirit. It's natural to you guys. Because when you were young, you would contemplate spiritual things before you knew what spiritual things were. You would marvel at God's creation. You saw him in things people did not see him in. That's how you do it. That's how your new day begins. That's how it's completed. That's how you begin with your identity that the Lord gave you. That's how. It's not hard. It takes a long time to get people to see that they're living by fear. But all these things that happen in the world, we do things in the world to try and survive. God knows what you've been doing to try and survive. That's why Christ came. That's a big difference between a Christian, a real one, and a non-Christian. The sin in your life, the majority of it has been to survive. You've been trying to survive, especially now that you're older. You're trying to survive. A person who's a Christian, they may have an addiction. They're trying to survive. The only way they know how. But listen, you don't have to do it by yourselves anymore. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to work by yourself. Without the Lord's intervention, your life will be incomplete always. In the Bible, it says he's the author and finisher of your faith, that he will finish the work he began in you. So the key is this. Once you really come clean with the Most High, he'll begin to finish the work he began in you. He will. A lot of people say, well, you're not going to finish your walk if you don't do this and do that. No, we don't finish our walks. We can't take steps without the strength of Christ. Jesus named that very plainly. It is Christ in us. That's how we achieve it. You're a partaker of his strength. And by the way, he overcame the world. He overcame every spirit in hell. He overcame Lucifer. He overcame all temptation. He overcame everything. He did. So by him, you make it. Not by yourselves, by him. He enters in when you're walking by faith and not by sight. When you're walking by the Spirit. That's how the drug addiction is rectified. That's how you'll no longer be an alcoholic. It's by him. By his strength, his resolve, his know-how. I'll tell you something. A lot of people in this day and age, they have to know how to do everything. I don't. So long as my Lord can do it, I need not even look in that direction. See how faith works. I don't need to know how to do everything. I do need to know that my Lord can do it, and he can, because I have faith that he can. And there's internal confirmation that tells me, yes, he can do it. That's just like you guys. You know he can do a miracle. The problem is you don't really accept that he'll do a miracle in your life. You believe it for everybody else. You have an issue believing it for yourselves. You think all of that is coincidence, that all of you would have this common thread. How many common threads did I speak about tonight? Your belief in prophecy, this yearning that you have concerning spiritual things. How easy it is for you to believe that God can heal the other guy. But the problem you have for yourself. How many times, if somebody came in here right now and said, I don't think Jesus will heal, just about all of you would say, oh, yes, he will. How many of you would get energized? You would not get tired. You would get energized. If somebody popped up and said, well, I don't think Jesus is Lord, how many of you would get, but it's like a light switch. You'd stand up. You'd, oh, no, that person did not just say that. He does. In fact, you wake up when defense time comes of the living God, and you don't even know why you do it. You can be dead tired. Let somebody come in here and say that Christ does not exist. Let somebody say something foolish concerning faith. Even when if you had a lack of faith or you couldn't believe today, all it takes is for one person to say, yeah, I don't think, so Jesus is real. You would stand up. You'd be full of energy. You would say, nope, I didn't hear that. Did I just hear that? I have to say, you couldn't even hold you. You couldn't contain yourself. You know what that is? That's your spirit within you. That spirit within you is who you really are. The character you've built for yourself can only operate by flesh. Who you really are, that's a different matter. Healing is in who God made you to be. Restoration is in who God made you to be. Finding that place of rest in Christ is who God made you to be. A full understanding and a healthy understanding. That's in who God made you to be, not who we developed ourselves, not the strange garments we often put on to disappear in the world. Many of us have been broken for a long time. Now it's time for truth. Folks, that's all I got for you this evening. This conversation took place. Now, some of you may or may not know, but there are some notices on the sites. I encourage you guys to read the homepage from time to time. Changes are going to happen a bit faster now than usual. Well, a whole lot faster than usual, but by way of intervals, okay? And we'll get there. I do want to say, it's a little statement up there because we're going to do the transparency thing. It's important to me that everybody know exactly where COT is all the time. And so things being made so you guys can see the status of COT, the tasks that we're doing, all that's outlined on the homepage, by the way. And it will be involved. It'll be quite thorough. That gives everybody a snapshot of exactly where COT is. Now, concerning content and everything else, here's a list because of the KD file. Some of our, we're going to have content agreements and some terms of use. And what these will do now, because we got to look out for COT. There's so many false COTs out there, right? 2 ministries over the weekend sent me, people who are trying to grab up domain names and everything else from Mike from around the world and the Council of Time. There are lots of Mikes from around the world in association they put on there in association with Pastor Paul and these guys. They're just ruthless. They accept donations and everything else. But the problem with that is they're getting a lot of traffic. You know what that means, don't you? They're getting a lot of traffic. So the character and COT, if we're not careful, is everything is going to change to the outside view, and they'll end up destroying certain paths for COT. Well, they're going to try to. So, but that means I'm going to put some disclosures on our site. Once those are up, and they're going up right now, they will be enforced because we're being contacted by some agencies, and they said they will enforce our terms. They'll enforce the terms. In fact, they're going to enforce a few things. Don't ask me why, but they are. They're going to work in favor of COT. They will. I'll tell you why. That's the Lord and the Lord only. That's who that is. Right? You have people out there trying to capitalize off of us, even with the audio too. Now, I know some of you guys that do the audio, right? We're going to have terms and copyrights are already, they're going up, being filed and everything else for our audio. So I have a list in COT that I'll be making. You guys will see that by the homepage as it goes up, but some people will automatically be listed, given permission. There's an express statement on there that says no one has permission unless expressly stated by COT and Michael, to use audio content. Some people get an automatic pass, obviously, but others will not at that time, right? If anybody's in breach of that, they're going to be up there. Now, it will give everybody a chance who does that, who utilizes the audio. There'll be once all of this is enabled, about 4 days prior to it being enabled, a form will go up, kind of like the chat access form, and you just go up there and just let me know what you're doing, and we'll sift through that and get you, because you have a lot of people in place that already have the audios. We don't want people to be all messed up on that. right? We don't want that. Because when they go out, when the dogs are cut loose, they're going to do what they do best. And it's not a mean thing. It's not a mean thing. But there are people out there trying to tear down ministries, period. That's what they're doing. They're trying to tear them down, cause a mockery of them, tear them down. And in our case, it's not good. It's just not good. Once I read that some dude had it, and it was first of all, it looked like it jumped out of hell itself, the site did, right? And it was aggressive. It was just aggressive and very, very religious. I'll put it that way, right? It was bashing gay people. It was bashing all sorts of people. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. And so I got to make a distinct line of representation for COT. I have to make a distinct line. So I'm going to make that clear on the homepage. I have to do that and certain other forums, and we're working on that right now. So when people come to the main site, they'll see exactly what we stand for, and it will be transparent. They'll know exactly where we are not, right? Because we're not on, we don't do the YouTube. I don't think people understand that people record us and use the recording for other platforms out there, right? That's what they do. We don't, as far as financial wise, because, it was a conversation. They said, oh yeah, COT makes, they got to make millions a month. No, we don't have any YouTubes. We have no income from the internet, period. Zip, zero. Do you guys know that? Zero. No income from the internet. No residual income, no anything from the internet. We get nothing. So if it does not come directly out of my wallet, it's just not going to happen. That's how COT works. We have no connection with any external companies. There is zero income for COT right now. Zero. That's it. Zero. Do you guys know that? And so that's how we operate. That's what has to be transparent, right? That has to be transparent. Even PayPal said they'll work with us on developing this transparency thing. Can you imagine that? PayPal said that. PayPal did. So anyway, there we are with that, because we want to be transparent. Now, I'm telling you right now, we don't operate like everybody else. We operate in a very different way. A very, very different way. I don't advise everybody to do it, but I have a different calling, right? That's why I don't have a title. I have a different calling. And when things change in the world, well, there we are. It's not going to be conventional. I'm not in agreement with a lot of folks out there, right? I have to take another side on that. Those things I have hands-on experience with. That's what's going to be disclosed at COT, talked about a lot. I don't know what other people have experience with. I only know what I've had experience with, right? And there was a certain field, 12 years of experience in one specific field. And it almost took my brain away, or took my mind away, right? It's only God that I have my sanity. In other words, you get exposed to the wrong things in this world, and this world is not the passive place you think it is. Now, if it were just human beings, that'd be great, right? If you knew all the animals that existed on this earth, you might not go out your front door. You just wouldn't. And it's like that for just about everything in this world. God has been merciful and very protective of us. He really has been, right? But with the Lord, the Lord does things, right? We have a building, we have a website, there are other plans, right? And so slowly but surely, what most people accomplish in a month, it takes us years to do, but that's okay, because I have a different calling. And these corporations and some of these laws that are out there, and some of these draconian NDSs, these NDAs, right? They don't apply to COT. Right? Corporation cannot say, well, we're going to slash your income, because they can't do that, because we get no money from them, no money from any external source, which is awesome. So they can't control us that way. They can't. Nothing is monetized. Nothing. Zip, zero, right? That's what I want to make known to everybody. Number one, it shows a very real, let's say it shows the impossible, right? It also shows a lot of resolve, a lot of mercy from the Lord and grace. I can't brag. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and brag like, okay, yeah, I got it made, so I'm funding everything. It's not like that, right? Not like that. No, 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 no. We've had so many setbacks that we're sitting back. We were sitting back, so we're good to go now, right? Somebody said that's how Google does you money for nothing. Yeah, well, we don't get money from Google or anybody else. We get zero. Zip, zip, zip. If it didn't come from me, if it didn't come from you guys, we don't have it. We don't have it. But these other people, I feel sorry for them. Listen, I know what's going to happen. They're going to pull the rug out from under their feet, right? They have a deadline for 2025. They're going to meet the deadline. I hate to tell everybody. They're going to meet that deadline. They're going to pull the rug out from everybody. That's when we go into operation for a lot of ministries, right? We are going to be a communications platform, and they're not going to be able to stop if the internet goes down, and so be it. So be it. We want the fellowship to continue. Can you imagine Christians isolated? They would try to undo every security that those who have faith would have ever obtained. Right? And believe it or not, I had this plan. This began in 1999. Isn't that funny? Or no, I'm sorry, 1995. It began in 1995. And it's just been, it's been slow and upcoming, but there are, it's going forward. And I'm very blessed, very blessed. Anything that happens to me, it can be handed over to the next person. It has to operate that way, right? Can't have all these different attachments to it. So with that, all that stuff will be posted to the homepage. I hope you guys keep yourselves informed. And we'll continue to go forward. We go forward as much as possible. Much as possible. But I do appreciate everybody there. I'm going to say God bless you guys. I'm going to see you next time right here at the Council of Time. And we'll have more conversations in some very... guys, get ready for a series at midnight hours, please. Can you do that? Get ready for that. All right. God bless and keep you guys. I'm going to see you guys next time right here at the Council of Time.